Hey everyone! In this video we're going to talk about the people who have either earned the respect or anger of the strongest creature on Earth, Yujiro Hanma. Yujiro is the peak of physical strength and the ultimate symbol of martial arts skill. Anyone who wants to win aspires to be like him, which is why earning his respect is something only a few lucky people can say they've done. So without wasting any more time, let's dive into this list and see which characters the ogre respects the most. We have to start with Yujiro's father, Yujiro, because from what little we know, we can assume Yujiro respected him. Yujiro didn't like his father's calm and peaceful attitude, which he thought was very different from his own. However, as a fighter, Yujiro was the only one stronger than him, at least at one point in the story. Yujiro was the first man to defeat the United States, and as we all know, Yujiro followed in his father's footsteps years later and also defeated the United States by himself. It's as if Yujiro was saying, anything you can do, I can do better. Another time Yujiro shows his admiration for his father is during his fight with Baki, right after Yujiro appeared in the middle of the fight. At that time, Yujiro used his father's favorite technique and called it the dress technique. It's likely that Yujiro taught this technique to his son Yujiro in the same way that the ogre did with Baki. Even though we don't see much interaction between them, from what we do know, we can guess that Yujiro was the main reason Yujiro decided to become the world's strongest man. General Stridum is considered one of Yujiro Hanma's closest friends because the ogre sees him as a strong and brave man. They have a deal where, once a year, Stridum must hunt Yujiro. If the general entertains Yujiro, their friendship continues for another year. If he fails, their friendship ends. Yujiro and the general met many years ago when the United States was trying to kill the ogre, and they gave this mission to Stridum. Of course, the general couldn't complete the mission because capturing the ogre was impossible. During that time, the general met Yujiro in person and, by pure luck, managed to return to the United States alive. Since then, the two have been quite close, and from time to time they can be seen sharing a drink or walking around town while discussing topics of interest. Imai was Yujiro's wife and Baki's mother. Yujiro specifically chose her to be the mother of his child because he saw that she was just like him. Both enjoyed watching others suffer and had a heart thirsty for destruction. Imi hid these feelings, but when she met Yujiro, she started being true to herself. They both had a different idea of love, yet somehow they connected in other ways. The moment when Yujiro recognized Imai as a tough woman was during his fight with Baki, when she stepped in to save her son's life. Yujiro respected Imai's bravery, as even though she had no chance of hurting him, she sacrificed herself so her son could live. Diane Neal met Yujiro during the Vietnam conflict, and at that time, the ogre accepted her as his partner because he saw that she was tough and strong. However, she later earned his hatred when Yujiro discovered that she was a government spy on a mission to kill him. We all know what Yujiro did after discovering her betrayal, so we can say that she truly earned both Yujiro's respect and contempt at the same time. I sometimes wonder what would have happened if Yujiro had chosen Diane as his wife instead of Imai. Maybe Jack would have been born with perfect blood since he would have been a wanted and planned child. The Hanma blood works in mysterious ways, so anything's possible. We know that Ando is an old friend of the ogre, but we are not sure how close they were in the past since they never met again. But the fact that Yujiro introduced him to his son Baki makes me think that Yujiro at least regarded him as a brave and tough man. Ando was willing to sacrifice himself to save Baki, so he definitely deserves the ogre's respect. Muhammad Ali. This man earned Yujiro's respect and admiration because of his fight against society. Yujiro saw him not just as a great fighter, but also as a warrior who stood up for the weak. That's why the ogre personally visited him, expressing his admiration after shaking his hand. Yujiro even visited the boxer's son and told him that he hoped the boy would be a worthy opponent for his sons in the future. Needless to say, this man was an expert boxer and one of the best fighters on the planet, having created his own martial art based on boxing. Yujiro told him that his martial art was good but needed to be perfected. Next on the list is Ali Jr., the son of the man we talked about a few seconds ago. Yujiro showed interest in him when they met after several years. The ogre wanted to see how Jr. would handle the technique that defeated his father, but the young man declined the offer and left, leaving Yujiro utterly humiliated. This act made Yujiro despise him and his martial arts philosophy. It's also worth noting that the ogre was present when Baki humiliated Jr. in a matter of seconds. So after witnessing that fight, Yujiro likely felt only pity and disgust for Jr., as he had hoped he would match his father's skills but turned out to be a huge disappointment. Yanagi is another character who earned Yujiro's contempt. The ogre appeared after the criminal was defeated by Motobi, telling him it was best to accept defeat. Yanagi did not acknowledge his defeat and even told Yujiro that it was not his decision. Obviously, this was a big mistake, and Yujiro responded with a punch that literally wiped out half of his face. This man heavily relied on his weapons, but what disappointed Yujiro the most was that even after being brought to his knees, he refused to accept his defeat. Emperor Kaku showed Yujiro the power of Chinese martial arts and taught him that even an old man over 100 years old could be a worthy opponent. Even though his body aged, Chinese martial arts remained strong. Kaku is one of the few characters who gave Yujiro a good fight. He wasn't defeated in just a few seconds. In fact, he forced the ogre to activate his demon back to end the fight. After the fight, the old man acknowledged Yujiro as a worthy bearer of the title Emperor of the Sea. Yujiro also praised the old man's strength and told him that he admired him for practicing martial arts for over a century. Dr. Kureha seemed to be an interesting fighter in Yujiro's eyes. However, after losing to Baki, he no longer saw him as a potential opponent. In fact, when Yujiro entered the underground arena and challenged all the fighters, Kureha didn't dare confront him and ended up cornered by the ogre. If it weren't for his brother, Yujiro would have likely annihilated him right there. Yujiro doesn't hate him, but he doesn't consider him an opponent worthy of his attention either. On the other hand, Kasha was a genuine surprise as he fearlessly stood up to the ogre and challenged him to fight. Kosho even managed to dodge a punch from Yujiro, and it's important to note that Yujiro's attack was thrown with his full strength. Without a doubt, at that moment, Kosho was above his brother in Yujiro's eyes. Few men have managed to dodge a punch from Yujiro at that speed, so Kosho is definitely not a man to be underestimated. Oliva Biscuit is considered the strongest man in America, and at one point he was considered the second most dangerous man in the world, only behind Yujiro Hanma. The ogre recognizes Mr. Unchained Strength, and they meet from time to time to discuss different topics. Yujiro seems to have a certain respect and admiration for Oliva, and he's also thankful to him for helping Baki grow stronger. Remember, Baki challenged Biscuit because he saw him as the man who came closest to Yujiro in strength. Without a doubt, the Unchained is one of the fighters that the ogre respects for his strength and fighting philosophy. What Yujiro admires most about this man is his evolution without even practicing martial arts. The prehistoric caveman, Pickle, caught Yujiro's attention from the moment he learned about him. The ogre probably saw the TV broadcast and felt a strong desire to meet Pickle in person. Yujiro went to Pickle and challenged him to a contest of brute strength. At that moment, the caveman overpowered Yujiro for a few seconds and almost knocked him down, but the ogre used a technique and managed to defeat him at the last moment. Yujiro was excited to feel Pickle's power because he saw that this guy had immense potential. Pickle suddenly appeared, and Yujiro was happy to see him again. Like other fighters, Yujiro respects the fact that Pickle survived in a world ruled by the biggest and most dangerous creatures in history. Yujiro might also be envious that Pickle managed to enjoy his time with those dangerous creatures in the past. Yasha was a creature that lived in the mountains and was one of the toughest opponents Baki has ever faced. However, for Yujiro, this creature was just like any other jungle animal, and he showed him no respect when he went hunting for him. Yujiro even brought the creature's head to Baki to anger him. By doing this, he proved that this creature was never a real threat. It was like telling Baki that all his training in the mountains was just child's play. Gaia was introduced as an elite super soldier, and General Stridum even compared him to Yujiro Hanma. This was clearly an exaggeration by the general, and Yujiro proved it when he defeated him easily. Although the fight wasn't shown, it was clear that it was a total humiliation because after the fight, Yujiro treated Gaia like a servant. The ogre forced him to bow down to him, showing that Stridum's comparison was nothing more than a bad joke. The ogre probably didn't even consider him an entertaining opponent. Yujiro always saw Katsumi as a spoiled child and told him to his face when they met at the military base where Pickle was held. Yujiro humiliated him by moving faster than him, quickly removing his shoelaces and throwing them in his face. Yujiro told him that the only reason he dared to challenge him was that he knew his father and the others present wouldn't let him die. Yujiro never liked Katsumi and never showed him any respect. However, it would be interesting to know what Yujiro thinks of him after seeing all the progress he's made since their last encounter. Hanayama truly earned Yujiro's respect. Remember that at the beginning of the series, Yujiro didn't consider him an interesting fighter. However, as the story progressed, Yujiro noticed that Hanayama had immense potential and might become a worthy opponent someday. Yujiro even told him that they were similar, as both were born to be strong. Hanayama was born with great strength and never needed intense training to become strong. It has been revealed that Hanayama trains on special occasions, but unlike other fighters, he doesn't need to train for long periods to keep getting stronger. Yujiro has defeated him several times, but he never came to despise him. In fact, the more Hanayama tries to beat him, the more respect Yujiro feels for him. Jack is Yujiro's unwanted son, but when they met, Yujiro felt a genuine interest in him. Yujiro knew that Jack used chemicals to become stronger, but he didn't care about that for him. The only thing that truly mattered was strength, not how it was achieved. Unfortunately, after Jack lost to Baki, he decided to confront his father and challenged him to a fight. Yujiro, of course, defeated him instantly. But the worst part was that the ogre told him he was a complete disappointment and was no longer interested in him. Yujiro lost all respect for Jack and never again considered him a worthy opponent. Later in the story, Yujiro mentions that Jack's blood isn't pure, and that's why he'll never be on the same level as Baki. Jack's mission hasn't changed, and he is still waiting for the day when he can finally confront his father and get revenge for what he did to his mother. I've always found it curious that Yujiro met with Sikorsky instead of any of the other 5 convicts. The ogre probably felt some interest in the Russian, which is why he explained how to provoke Baki's anger. However, after everything that happened and knowing that Sikorsky was defeated several times, Yujiro probably laughed at him and realized that the guy was never worth it. Even his flawed creation, Jack managed to defeat him easily, so Yujiro's level of respect for him must be 0. We could say that Yujiro simply used this guy to provoke Baki. Yuwu Amanai was the only man that Yujiro accepted as his disciple. He was a presidential bodyguard, and Yujiro took an interest in him because of his deep knowledge of martial arts and his unique life philosophy. Yujiro even allowed him to slap him and didn't get angry about it. The level of respect Yujiro had for that guy had to be incredibly high to let him do something like that in front of Baki and the others. However, all praises ended when Amanai couldn't defeat Dappo. The ogre became so angry that he went down to the arena and beat him in front of everyone. After that, we didn't hear anything more about this character. It's known that he survived, but no one knows if he continued practicing martial arts. It's interesting how this guy went from being Yujiro's disciple to becoming a complete joke to him. Retsu's master left everyone wondering about his true potential. Ryukayo lost to Yujiro in a humiliating way, within seconds. I don't think Ryu is weak, it's just that he had to fight the toughest opponent right at the start. For Yujiro, Chinese martial arts were a joke back then, and he mocked Ryukayo. It's clear that this man didn't earn any respect. Yujiro's relationship with Retsu is a bit strange, because the ogre always teased him when they were face to face. However, I think Yujiro was a little curious about him since he was always ready to fight when Retsu challenged him. They never actually fought, but if they had, I think Retsu would have done better than his master. Politicians and presidents are the people Yujiro dislikes the most. He's been seen humiliating the presidents of some of the world's most powerful countries. The ogre even used George Bush's presidential limousine like it was a taxi to get around the city. He hates the idea of weak and dishonest people running a country, and has shown this by making all the presidents sign a non-aggression pact with him. Another person Yujiro can't stand is Motobi because he ruined one of the most important fights of his life. The legendary swordsman Musashi Miyamoto was about to land his best strike on Yujiro, but Motobi stepped in and took the hit instead. Yujiro was so angry that he kept attacking Motobi even though he was unconscious. This was a fight Yujiro had been looking forward to, and now it was ruined. Let's not forget the time Motobi visited Yujiro and said he would protect him from Musashi. Yujiro got so angry that he almost destroyed the building when he found out Motobi had run away. We haven't seen another interaction between these two, but I'd love to know what Yujiro currently thinks about the man who ruined one of the best fights of his life. The sumo god dared to call Yujiro to the underground arena for a fight. The problem was that Yujiro wasn't in Japan at the time, and when he arrived at the arena, he was very irritated. Nomi was very excited and offered a handshake as a sign of respect, but Yujiro saw this as an insult and knocked him down with one move. After that, Yujiro punched him in the face, leaving him knocked out in the middle of the arena. Yujiro probably also heard that Baki and Jack had defeated Nomi easily, which made him lose even more respect for him. Another sumo wrestler who crossed paths with Yujiro was Kahaya, a guy who bragged about having the fastest kicks in the world. However, when Yujiro met him, he showed him that being fast isn't enough if you don't know how to strike correctly. Kahaya ran away, realizing that if he kept fighting, he would likely end up with many broken bones. Later on, this guy was utterly humiliated by Dappo, and it's safe to say that Mitsunari told Yujiro about it. Yujiro probably felt pity and shame for him. Because of Nomi and Kahaya, it's likely that the ogre has no interest in ancient sumo anymore. When Yujiro was preparing to fight Baki for the first time, he decided to visit one of the best archers in the world. Yujiro wanted to test his own abilities against this renowned archer. He asked the archer to shoot an arrow at him from close range of feet that would seem impossible to stop at such a distance. However, for Yujiro, it was no problem at all. Yujiro had come to test the archer's skills because he knew of his exceptional proficiency with arrows and bows. Another woman who earned Yujiro's respect and admiration was Kazu, Baki's girlfriend. Yujiro recognized her as a strong and brave woman and admitted she was the perfect partner for his son Baki. It's also worth noting the time she stepped in during the father vs. son fight, trying to stop them. She didn't succeed, but Yujiro praised her courage. Mitsunari is definitely one of Yujiro's best friends. They've known each other for a long time and seem to have a good relationship. In fact, Yujiro often visits Mitsunari's mansion, where they chat and have drinks together. The ogre has become concerned about the old man's health, advising him to see a doctor before his condition gets worse. He also sometimes insults and intimidates him, but despite this, he still considers him one of his closest friends. Dappo Orochi can be considered one of Yujiro's main rivals due to their long history. When the ogre learned that Dappo was nicknamed the God of War, he sought him out and found him while he was celebrating his birthday. Yujiro hit Dappo, ruining his night, but before leaving, he expressed his disappointment in him. Since then, the two have had a long rivalry. They faced off in the underground arena, and to everyone's surprise, Dappo put up a good fight, even forcing Yujiro to use his demon back. Dappo survived that battle, and Yujiro acknowledged him as a warrior worthy of respect. Sometimes they walk together through the streets of Tokyo and grab a drink at a nearby bar. Yujiro trusts Dappo deeply and has even shared with him how much he loves his son Baki. Both of them have sons who have also become passionate about martial arts. Based on the series, I believe that Dappo has become a close friend of Yujiro. The legendary swordsman Musashi Miyamoto is a highly respected figure in Japan. Everyone knows his legend. That's why when he was brought back to life, Yujiro personally went to meet him, wanting to see if this was the real Musashi or just a fake. Yujiro was very surprised because Musashi withstood all his attacks and remained standing even after the ogre used his full power. Yujiro even activated his demon back, realizing this wasn't an ordinary opponent. Unfortunately, the fight didn't end as everyone expected, leaving us unsure about who would have won. Yujiro and Musashi took a walk together in the city. The ogre acknowledged Musashi's strength and accepted that the legendary swordsman was the only man equal to him. Years of living in the midst of war had turned Musashi into a human weapon. There was nothing he couldn't cut. Up to that point in the story, we can say that Musashi is the closest character to Yujiro Hanma in terms of power. Without a doubt, this man earned the respect and admiration of the strongest creature on Earth. And finally, Baki Hanma, the strongest man in the world. Without a doubt, Baki earned his father's respect in the best possible way by giving him one of the best fights of his life. These two share a unique father-son relationship, and when they want to solve their problems, they do it the only way they know how, with their fists. Yujiro was the cause of his son's greatest traumas, but despite that, he truly loves him from the bottom of his heart. Yujiro has even mentioned that he thinks about Baki all day long and is always curious about what his son will do next. Sometimes it seemed like Yujiro hated Baki, but after looking at the series more closely, I realized that the ogre has his own way of showing love, which he constantly shows to his son. Yujiro's greatest sign of respect towards Baki was when he declared him the strongest man in the world during their epic battle. They might be an unusual family, but the mutual respect they have for each other is undeniable. Well, I might have forgotten some characters, but if they're not on this list, it's because I believe they didn't have enough interactions with Yujiro to be included in the video. If you think I missed any character, please let me know. And remember, you can also leave your questions and suggestions for future videos in the comment box. And, well friends, thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to subscribe if you liked it. See you soon.